This is For My Sons, a space where we equip men to lead themselves, their families, and their communities with strength and wisdom. I'm your host, Papa O, a father, a husband, a son, and a student of life. Here, we dive into all the topics that shape the development of men. Lessons, stories, and principles you can use to strengthen your family and impact your community. If you're passionate about becoming a better man, building a better family, and leaving a better world, you're in the right place. Let's jump into today's conversation. Last week we talked about respect, what it is, how it's earned, and why it matters so deeply as a man. But here's the thing. Respect isn't just about discipline and seriousness. It's also about self-honor, giving yourself the space to be whole. And that brings us to today's conversation, the importance of play. Because a man who never plays becomes rigid, and a man who forgets how to laugh, compete, or create slowly forgets how to live. This episode's Yoruba proverb translates as, when a child becomes quiet, an elder knows he's done playing. And what that means is that play has its time, and its absence signals a shift into maturity or seriousness. Recognizing this balance is key. So as always, we start our podcast episode by defining our words. And since this is the importance of play, we're of course defining play. Now, according to Merriam-Webster, play is a recreational activity, especially spontaneous activity among children. It seems like a weird topic to be talking about the importance of play, but I can tell you that play is extremely important and it matters. And I'll give you 4 reasons as to why. Number 1, play shapes mental, emotional, and social development, especially in children. There is a reason as to why typically we regard play to being a childlike feature, because we see children doing it all the time. Nurseries, in primary schools and secondary schools, there is a reason as to why play is so important, especially in gelling people together, in terms of social interaction, because that is one of the most important things as a human being. Like, if you can't socially interact with people, it's going to be a problem. From a mental perspective, having an imagination goes an extremely long way, because imagination, which we'll talk about in later episodes, is most certainly one of the primers of creativity. And it's in that creativity that we're able to build, right? I'm sure great inventors back in the day, great inventors of the past were able to first have a playful mindset before being able to imagine what they came up with. I'm sure the Wright brothers didn't start out by going, and think of nothing for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden, the idea of the plane came to mind. No. I'm sure it started as something else and iterated continuously until they got to, why don't we try a vehicle in flight and see how that goes? And as such, here we are. We go on holidays, can't do without the plane. We're able to travel seas and oceans in a matter of hours, as opposed to going by sea, by boat, which would take days and sometimes even weeks, depending on which side of the world you're coming to and from. Number 2 as to why play matters. It's a primer for creativity. And I know I said that in the first point, but just bear with me here. The reason why I want to go into this a bit more is because it is that creativity as men that we bring, that we can build. Okay, some things can be built that already exist, but typically if we're building anything new, there needs to be an element of creativity in order to match things together. I think it was Reid Hoffman that said if you took 2 or 3 current things and created them in a different format together, then you would come up with something completely new. And that takes creativity to do. That is limitless potential that is at play. So, as I said, play is a primer for creativity. Number 3, play brings laughter, which builds trust, compassion, and empathy in relationships. No point in having a relationship if you're not having any fun within it, because at some point you're going to need another form of incentive past pure transaction in order for a relationship to last. And because with your significant other, you're able to laugh together. I mean, women are extremely attracted to humor because what women look for, I mean, generally speaking, what women look for and what men look for are two different things in terms of their life partner. So being able to make somebody laugh brings people together. It works for friends as well, right? I'm sure that anybody that has friends who's been friends for a long period of time, there's no way they could have gotten through without some form of laughter, right? And that all comes from play, right? And as I said, it builds trust, builds compassion, and it builds empathy as well. So people are able to understand because you can say, look, imagine yourself in my position. Technically, that's a form of play. Doesn't seem like it initially, but it is a form of play because you're imagining yourself in someone else's shoes whilst being yourself. So you're playing the role, so to speak, of someone else. So that is, as I said, play bringing together laughter. And number 4, play is all around us. And it comes in many forms. It comes in sports, it comes in competitions, and it comes in games. Now, I'm not sure about you. I love video games, I love sports, and I love competitions. I'm involved in a lot of those. So I play, and I'll talk about this on a later episode, about the importance of team sports. But I love to play, and it comes out in those avenues. Couldn't imagine life without those 3 elements. In all honesty, they've taught me so much. Being able to play through video games, board games. Who doesn't love Monopoly? Well, I say who doesn't love Monopoly. Monopoly might be a bit of a weird one. That one's definitely caused a lot more arguments than it should. Like, imagine if someone lands on Mayfair with a hotel. Are you joking? And you know you don't have the money. All you've got is like, what was it, the light blue ones? Euston Road, Angel Islington, Pentonville Road. You'd be fuming if you landed there, especially when you're so close to go. Anyway, board games, card games as well, right? Everybody loves Uno. So, and of course, with video games, most certainly the PlayStation 5, of which I have one. Absolutely love my PlayStation. Being involved in competitions as well. You're able to express yourself in a certain kind of environment which you might not necessarily normally be able to do so, which play enables. And sports, football, rugby, basketball, tennis, you name the sport, it's all a form of play with some added stipulations to it, but it's all a form of play. And that are the 4 points as to why play matters. Now, as great as play is, it does, of course, come with its challenges because we're human beings. We can pretty much make a challenge out of everything. But when it comes to play, I would see them more as the extremities of play. On one side, you have excessive play, and on the other side, you have no play. Now, with excessive play being a challenge, it can be distracting, especially if you have responsibilities. So things like going to work, or if you're a student studying for the next exam or getting your coursework done, right? Excessive play can distract you from that. And a good example of excessive play is actually in the fable of the ant and the grasshopper, where the grasshopper played all summer, wasn't prepared for winter like the ant was, and when winter came along, the grasshopper was absolutely done over and the ant was sitting cushy, right? Excessive play leads to a lack of preparation for something else, especially if you know there is a deadline that you need to be adhering to. Excessive play would absolutely be a challenge. And on the other side, there's no play, right? Deprivation of play in children leads to stunted development. That there are enough studies to show that. I'm sure you've come across people who might not necessarily be in your social circle, well, definitely not your social circle, or else they wouldn't be this way, where they are no fun at all. no sense of humor, no banter, no social aptitude whatsoever. And you find out that they were extremely, when the way that they grew up was extremely restricted, where something like play was not only frowned upon, but absolutely killed. That's what I mean by stunted development, right? Human beings were meant to connect with one another. That's why the importance of communication was the first podcast episode, because communication is meant to connect, right? So no play would absolutely stunt your development. And if your development is stunted, I feel sorry for you. It's going to be tough out here. Don't let that be you. Now, a good example of what no play looks like is the global pandemic we had some time ago, where children, because they weren't allowed to play outside because of social distancing and all that sort of stuff, children experience social and educational setbacks, right? There are a lot of children who, because of that lack of play, the lack of social interaction, are really struggling to make friends, struggling to portray any form of confidence. And that's not what you want, especially for a young child, because it takes a lot of work in order to, I guess, rectify that, as the case may be. Rectify it so that you actually have a well-functioning adult, because that's the sort of thing that follows. Children are extremely moldable, extremely impressionable. So if something isn't developed in childhood, there is a less likelihood that it's going to be developed at any later stage. So yeah, lack of play lack of play, no play, definitely a bad shout. Now, spoken by why play matters. Now, there are a couple more reasons as to why play matters for men, and I have 6 of those reasons. Number 1, play fuels self-improvement from childhood into adulthood. So the desire to want to be better because you find something fun, and if you find something fun because you're able to play with it, it's more engaging to you, and the more something is engaging to you, typically the better you want to be at it, right? That's number 1. Number 2, it helps develop creativity, imagination, and social bonds. Having friends, being able to relate to other people, getting into relationships, having some form of desire or goal that you would like to do in the future. That is something that play matters to men for. Number 3, skills like problem solving, decision making, and reasoning are nurtured through play, right? And this is one of the reasons, as I said, for me, the reason why I like video games and stuff like that, I especially like role-playing games, is because it tests me on my reasoning, on my problem solving, right? I'm sure there are other things. I'm just saying for me personally, this is one of the reasons why I love video games. So being able to have those critical and they can be referred to as critical thinking skills, that's what play helps to enable as a skill. Number 4, play can strengthen romantic and personal relationships. As I said, nobody wants to be in a drab relationship. Nobody. Be it with your wife, your girlfriend, just any of your mates. You don't want to be boring. Fact, in the UK, that's probably one of the worst insults you could ever have in a friends group. Mate, you're boring. I've seen people get livid over that comment, right? Because you're not playful. You're just being a drag. And if you're sucking the energy out of the room, right, and you do that on a regular basis, yeah, people are going to want to separate themselves from you, right? Because typically those that are the soul suckers in the room aren't exactly the most fun to be around. I'm yet to find someone that is fun to be around, really playful, yet consistently is the negative one. I just don't see that. Number 5, balanced play leads to escaping distraction and poor focus. Now, as men, if we're not able to stay the course for whatever we're looking to do, it's going to be a problem, right? Men that are easily distracted, that can start something but can't finish it, not really what you wouldn't really call those guys dependable. And if you're not focused, you can't stick to one task at a time or see one task through to completion. You're just a flake, and you could flake out at any time. And from a social perspective, you come across as being unreliable. And if you're unreliable after a certain period of time, again, people don't want to be around you. I mean, you wouldn't want to be around you, right? If you were talking to someone and they were looking at you for about 3 seconds, and then they looked because they saw a bird in the sky and just focused on that for about 30 seconds, and you're still talking to them, you're going to be like, well, who's this jabroni? What are they doing? Why am I speaking to them? Why did I waste my time? You wouldn't want to see that happen against you. So again, balanced play is important to stay away from distraction and poor focus. And number 6, like the proverb says, know when to stop and shift into seriousness. Meaning to say that there is a time for everything, right? There is a time for play and there's time to be serious. Now, a good example of that is, if you're a parent, you're playing with your child isn't necessarily going to know where the limits are or how much time is being taken up. So you could be laughing, and just a change in your tone going, all right, knock it off, or all right, we're done, right? Changes the tone entirely. Child knows that they've stopped playing. You know they stopped. You have set the rules of control to know when to play and when to stop, so that things don't get too excessive and you end up, with someone that has poor focus or is easily distracted because they're always looking for the next thrill to keep, playing continuously, because you can't. Too much of anything is a bad thing anyway. So now we come to the part of the podcast where I speak specifically to why play matters for Black men. And in this context, I'm always going to try and add some context to it. As I said, I myself am Black, and I'm of a first generation African family. So actually this could apply really to anybody that's first generation. And the reason as to why play is important for Black men is because a lot of our parents have come from abroad, expats from different countries. So they don't have the same comfort or the same advantages, let's say, as someone that's, obviously had a family that's been there in a certain country for multiple generations. So as such, they want to, get themselves up in life. That's the reason why they moved, so that you got up in life. So their mentality is, if I worked hard to get to where I am, no problem. My children will do the same. Now, how that comes out is that there is way more of an emphasis on hard work, which is important, and we will talk about in later podcast episodes. But there's an overemphasis of hard work over play. Now, coming from a Nigerian family, I'm sure some of you can relate to this, that those that were brought up with Nigerian parents. If you ever heard these phrases, let me know, because I heard them multiple times. Number 1, read your book. Now, that just meant study. They could have said study, but no, read your book. If you ever heard that, if you ever heard the second phrase, stop playing that game. Right? Again, this is we're tending more towards hard work as opposed to play. And number 3, wait. Did you not see your friends in school? Why do you want to go to their house and play over the weekend when you can see them on Monday? I just want to go to a friend's house. Right? Again, play being stifled. Now, If those were phrases that you heard growing up, you're not the only one, right? Now, the problem with these phrases and the problem with having such an overemphasis on hard work is that kind of mindset tips the balance too far forward towards work and thus suppresses creativity. So you weren't really able to have anything outside of job. Well, because they'll always, your parents would always, of course, they want the best for you. They would always want you to be thinking about your future, just as they've thought about your future in order to be where you are. And what that meant was that the creativity side, or the creative side that you might have possessed, would have been absolutely suppressed. That would have obviously caused issue. So it is important for you to find balance between work, play, and rest. And those three are needed in order for you to, have any form of healthy development whatsoever. There needs to be a time to do the process through work, the time to play, where your mind can wander and imagine. And in that period of time, ironically enough, it's like when people go on holiday and they come back with new ideas because they've given their brain a new environment, which isn't under duress to always complete some form of projects or some sort of deadline, and you need rest. As far as practical advice goes this podcast episode, I have 3 questions for you, which hopefully can get the juices flowing in terms of understanding play and what that means to you. Number 1, does your environment foster play? Number 2, is play a regular part of your lifestyle? And number 3, what new activity could you start to spark creativity? So those are your 3 questions. Now, obviously, I can't answer those questions for you. That's for you to find out. But hopefully all of those 3 questions give you a sense of understanding as to how important play is in your daily activity and the power that play could have in your life if it is implemented correctly. So for my closing thoughts, I just wanted to say that play is not childish. It's how we develop the creativity and resilience needed for adult challenges. It fuels curiosity, where it keeps your mind sharp, flexible, and open to new possibilities. It deepens relationships, where you can laugh, compete, and create with others to build stronger bonds than on your own. Play supports mental health. It helps reduce stress, spark joy, and recharge your energy. And as a man, allowing yourself to play is not laziness, it's balance. You don't need permission to enjoy life. Build a life where work and play are signs of strength. And the goal isn't to stay a boy forever, it's to remain fully alive as you grow into a man and develop as a man. Thank you for joining me today on For My Sons. I hope today's message challenged you, encouraged you, or gave you something worth passing down. If you found value in this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new letter, a new lesson, or a new legacy moment. Until next time, be a communication CEO. Communicate clearly, communicate early, and communicate often. This is Papa Ro, and I am